Hey, good evening. Welcome to our City Council workshop, May 13th, 2026 at 6 p.m., Boardman City Hall chambers. I hereby call this meeting to order. We'll stand and we'll do the flag salute, the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, so we'll do our roll call. I know we have an excused absence with Christina, and I see Chief Hughes is up on the Zoom. And so I think that's everybody. So, Mr. Hammond.
Perfect. Okay, so we have a couple presentations that are going to be shared. We have Jared Tesh from the Water Consortium here to present. Matt Jensen is also here to support, answer questions. After Mr. Tesh's presentation, we'll have Mike Lees, our engineer, do a presentation as well. So go ahead, Jared.
Well, thank you. My name is Jared Tesh. I am the new managing director of the Clean Water Consortium, just as of a couple of months ago. I grew up in this area in Umatilla, born and raised, in fact, and have lots of ties to this area. My interesting note in terms of Riverside, though, and Boardman, though I have lots of friends over the years from here. I lived in and went to high school in the time that we were not allowed to play each other. If you're from this area, you know the history of some of that, and it was a little crazy. In my 8th grade year, there may have been a large it was definitely a fight, not a social gathering. And school boards met and canceled things for a few years. But but that's me. And I recently moved back to the area with my family. And I've been in public service my entire life, mostly in education, but more recently doing this and some other public service engagement work with City of Umatilla and other things. So that's me. I just wanted you to know I always prefer to know who I'm talking to, and at least you can know me a little bit. And I do this work, meaning public service work, because I want to help make a difference in people's lives, to help make meaning of the government. My education and background is political science and history, and I taught social studies and was in public administration in schools for a long time. And I chose those paths, if you will, because I believe in what you do and what we do in our democracy and in our wonderful country. And so I start with just I appreciate the efforts that you make and you do. And so. And then Matt, you guys already know, so I don't think I need to introduce him much, but we have been working together, and that brings us to this presentation. Context-wise, I don't think I need to elaborate this much. Is this our next slide? Maybe, okay. Context-wise, we have, of course, the nitrate contamination, ongoing, that's been around for a long time. Luguama and what they started in the 90s as a result of things passed, legislation and stuff passed in the 70s, and then more recently the formation of the Clean Water Consortium just over a year ago, about a year and a half ago, in partnership between the county and the port, in order to address some of these long time issues that a lot of people and government people and people behind the scenes had been talking about without making much progress. And though certain agencies and other groups like H2OEO or Water for Eastern Oregon and NOWA, Northeast Oregon Water Association, and other groups had formed to address some of the issues and to find some solutions around particularly agriculture and industry and recharging aquifers and all of those elements, as well as, you know, the Department of Environmental DEQ and OHA and all of these other groups. The issue is we still needed to get water to clean residents, or clean water, excuse me, to residents, and those affected most by the nitrate contamination. And so in the last year and a half, 2 years or so, some studies have been conducted to start to get down and whittle down into this. And again, maybe I'm preaching to the choir. Maybe you already know all about this. That's awesome. I just wanted to give us context before we jump right into my specific presentation today. The basis for this presentation, most of it is informed by the Myers study, a feasibility study that was funded this last year and completed. And it studied lots of different potential solutions to deliver water to residents specific to the West Glen neighborhood. Obviously, we know that the Luguama area is greater than just West Glen. It is greater than just Morrow County. The Morrow County Clean Water Consortium is focused on bringing water to the unincorporated residents of North Morrow County, those affected by the nitrate contamination. But this study was designed to focus in on one area to see if we can find some solutions. And so that study, it's out there, it's posted in lots of places online. I did not bring it, though I'm happy to share the entire document if you need it. It was a study, a feasibility study done with engineering, the Meyer Engineering Group, to determine what the best sources or solutions were to find clean water for these residents. Both in terms of what was sustainable, what was practical, what was reasonable, and you know, obviously taking into account the costs. So the solutions or ideas presented today, that is what they are. They're ideas that, taking that information, I would like to propose a partnership or to work with the city of Boardman to try to bring water to the residents of West Glen affected by the nitrate contamination. And so that is the context for this. And go ahead and go to our next slide. Under this proposal, there's a couple of things I want you to know. I know that it is outside of city limits. And so the ask, if you will, or the partnership, is going beyond just what you specifically have to do for Boardman. However, we want this to be a partnership and we want this to be a win-win for everybody. Obviously, I am just the public servant who is trying to find solutions. And we have lots of, I guess, interested parties, you might say, or people that are affected by this contamination and drinking water, what we would all consider a very basic human need, particularly in the United States. So what we have done in working closely with Brandon and Mike and others, as well as the port and the county and even residents in West Glen and in Boardman, I would say also Oregon and the larger area, we have tried to come up with solutions that benefit, again, everybody. And so these, before I even present some of the different things for you to consider, these are things that we want to put out there for you and for everybody affected. We don't expect there to be any long-term costs or even initial costs for Boardman in these proposals. We have acquired through state legislative allotment, through and other funding sources, a $3.85 million to devote specifically to this project. So we're not asking you to put a bond out or to seek loans or for anyone else for that matter. We are trying to build infrastructure to get people water. And so that is our number, 3.85. I would say a bullet points that's not on here is that timing is important because we all know the longer we wait, the more things get expensive, right? Inflation doesn't stop just because we need to continue to deliberate and find other ways and solutions. And so that number was arrived to. Part of the reason we're coming now and not a year ago was because the Myers report that was put together and study done indicated that the cost of this project could be done within $3.5 million, even with inflation, a 2-year inflation adjustment to 2027, when we would anticipate this work to be finished theoretically. So we have a little bit of wiggle room in that, but the idea is everything I'm presenting to you today would be covered in that 3.85 million. As part of that, we've been very deliberate in creating a plan that creates system redundancies for the city of Boardman. And on the next slide, which I'll get to, I'll show you a map and what I mean by that. But part of that infrastructure to get water to West Glen would provide a lot of redundancy for the city of Boardman in their services already. And again, we can talk more about that. It'll make more sense probably on the map. But you'll see along the 1.5 miles or so of line to get the water to West Glen. That does not include the hookups to West Glen, which I'll talk about. But there is additional things we would incorporate into that infrastructure to benefit Boardman at no cost to Boardman, of course. This project would also enhance fire mitigation by putting fire hydrants along the entire path and in the West Glen neighborhood. So, for example, the fire that just affected Boardman recently, this would mitigate a lot of that. Again, though it is outside of Boardman, we know that part of the protection would be the fact that if fires could be put out before they reach the city lines, it could benefit any catastrophic issues with wildfire simply by having access to that water that doesn't currently exist. And again, that would be part of the infrastructure we would build. We have the board, the consortium board has authorized me to negotiate an IGA, an intergovernmental agreement specifically with your engineering department, with Mike and or Anderson Perry, so that you can actually do the project design and engineering so that it's all seamless. Traditionally, or we might go out for an RFP and get lots of bids and see what we do. And we could do that, but instead we would prefer to work specifically with Boardman and with your department, your engineers, so that everything is seamless and everything is built to what Boardman needs and wants to get this water to West Glen. There would theoretically be additional rate payers that would add to your additional city revenue, in that obviously any water that's ultimately delivered to West Glen would still be paid for. So we're not asking for free water either. And so whatever that amount is and negotiated in the future is for Boardman to support the continued use of its water system. Feasibility, using the municipal water supply is simply the most practical, efficient, and sustainable options. And that is what comes out of the Myers study. There are a couple of other options, but they start to get not only more expensive, but also much more complicated politically and with the laws of Oregon and other things and how those could be run and set up. The overhead costs, the cost of running the system are exponential. This is not only the most, I would argue, best use of public funds, but it's also the most sustainable and practical. It leverages economies of scale more than anything else and existing systems as opposed to having to build other things from scratch. And then, of course, the goal of all of this is to deliver clean water to your neighbors, to the families of the kids who go to your schools and who engage with you. And though they're outside of Umatilla is the same, right? We have our city boundaries, but there's a lot more to Umatilla than just what's within our city boundaries. And this is an opportunity for us to work together to get water to our neighbors, to the people of Boardman, and at really no cost to you. And so that why we do all this work, right? Why we engage and why we serve is to do just this, to improve the well-being of our citizens. And that, again, all of those things are the benefits that you would have towards any of these proposals. And again, you can ask questions as we get to the end and stuff, but I wanted to just preface all of this with that. All of these plans, these thoughts have been made around the idea that we want this to be a win-win for everybody. We want to get people clean water. Okay, next slide. And again, this is just in case you weren't aware of what we're talking about. This is just rough. This is me on a computer taking screenshots and drawing lines, right? But the plan in the Myers study that we are basing this information on, this is the West Glen area. Again, you are familiar with that. It incorporates anywhere from 80 to 100 households. It would kind of depend based on engineering and the full plan as to how many places we could hook up that are kind of adjacent to, especially along Paul Smith Road, and maybe houses that start to border and on the reverse side of the canal. But the idea is we would connect as many people we can within that $2.85 million. The red line there is that extension that we would build and pay for that would have a lot of other things in it that are not just, it would have a larger pipe, for example, that is necessary. It would have the extra hydrants that would be necessary or would be built in that infrastructure to benefit Boardman before we even get to Coonsey Lane, and then of course all down Coonsey Lane. You would see that obviously that's where we talk about the redundancies. The city of Boardman would be able to connect to those lines in any other way for the existing neighborhoods and or for future growth. That line would be paid for by the funds that we've already acquired at no cost to Boardman. The cost would also pay for all the connections within West Glen. Now, we can't make the residents of West Glen sign up. That comes later, but we would pay for that infrastructure as part of this, and all the way up to the connection to their house. And all the meters and everything that infrastructure requires to deliver that water would be paid for in this project. And again, that would be up to them. And theoretically, none of them could sign up, and then we'd be out $2.85 million, and you would deliver no water, and you would still have redundancies in the system. You would still have the benefit of that red line being built, no matter what. If all 100 or so people sign up, great. Then we have 100 people with their meters and everything built and constructed so that they can turn on their faucets and have clean drinking water. This is not wastewater or sewage lines. This is just delivery of culinary water or the water that you would use in your home. This would not limit residents' ability to use well water for irrigation purposes, because none of that would ever come back into Boardman. It would not be connected. The water is really going just one way into West Glen. And so that is kind of the geographically speaking, what we are talking about in the Myers study and what information it gave us. Okay, go ahead. All right. So within this, what I'm presenting to you are kind of three governance options, for lack of a better term. We could build the infrastructure, but there's still some details that have to be worked out. And even after tonight, there's a lot of details yet to be worked out. I'm not even asking, obviously, for any decisions to be made tonight. I don't think that's the expectation. I just want you to know where we're at. And we're at this point where we need to see where Boardman is in terms of a partnership to be able to make this happen. And then to what extent might that be? So we have three options I'm proposing, and they're kind of, you can think of them like on a pendulum. So on one extreme of that side is option one, extension of the existing city system. It would do just that. It would extend in every way. Boardman would own it. They would go right into West Glen in every way, shape, and form, managing it, servicing it. Everything would be Boardman's. Okay. Again, some of the things with that you see listed there. You would own and operate the entire system. You could potentially use your own management system, meaning billing system and such, to maintain that. The county in this option would have limited to no responsibilities with this, because though the area would not be annexed and it would still be outside of Boardman, the system would be owned by Boardman and be managed by Boardman. So I guess the county responsibility comes into, well, these are still county residents, so there's county rules and anything that goes county, that's what the county would do. But you, in terms of clean drinking water, would own that system and provide everything there. The one, as I mentioned, there's 80 to 100 or so additional properties that would be served. This could impact future bond considerations, and positive or negative to be determined. We don't know, but in spirit of transparency, right? I want you to know that this could be a good thing for future bond considerations or not. But it is something that could impact Boardman based on option number one. This is the one on the extreme end of the pendulum, okay? Option number two is the other side of the pendulum, if you will. It is the new county managed water system. Under this system, it is the exact opposite of the city one. The city would sell water directly to the county in a contract comparable to that which is the port's contract, right? Like the city sells water to the port and then that's it. And then the port manages everything else behind the scenes and does everything they do. This is that more extreme, the pendulum all the way over here. Boardman has very limited anything with that. The challenge to this, or some of with this, the county would have to develop its own billing and management system. It does not have one. It does not run a water system. That's one reason why there's a difference between counties and cities and how that all works out, as we all know. So that would be substantially more, it would cost a lot more, not just for the county, but for the residents of West Glen. The project itself would potentially be more expensive because we have to think about a lot of additional things with the long-term sustainability of that, with the county running it and owning it as opposed to the city. And so with this system, or with this proposal, the engineering would be a little bit different. And a lot of the redundancies that we are considering might have to be compromised because it's in this last system, the cost 2.85 or 3.85 million has to get to this. And so I'm just being transparent that some of those redundancies would be lost in this option so that the county could manage the entire system. Again, like I said, the most expensive and least efficient option. Option three, without giving away my hand, is the one that I am advocating for. And it is a true partnership with the county and the city that is, again, beneficial to both and mostly for the residents of West Glen in the purpose of delivering their water. So under this option, like I said in that pendulum, this is the one that's kind of in the middle. The county would own technically the infrastructure and pipes in the ground in West Glen, right? And they would theoretically, and the city under contract with the county would operate the system. And so this would allow for the continuous monitoring, control, and maintenance of the system by Boardman, the one who knows how to do it and have the system in place. You have the economy of scale with this now, because they're already managing their existing people and system. Under this option, a legacy fund could be established to provide for long-term maintenance concerns. Now, I will say this: when you build a brand new system, it should last for 50 years without any problem, right? And if there's any issues in the short term, then you bring back the construction crew, the contractor, to fix that problem. But the what if, right? The what if, the insurance that we could create with the consortium is the formation of a legacy fund, a fund that would be set aside for any potential long-term maintenance issues, if that's a concern. And so that's what that provides for. And again, it's not tapped. It's used specifically for the long-term. Think of it as the insurance policy on the water in West Glen. Additionally, we're working closely with the governor's office and with our legislators and others. We are working out some details to provide additional services for the residents of West Glen, particularly as they move to rate-paying members of a system. Currently, they use wells that they can't use, right? Or drink from that you can't drink from. Under this system, they would now be paying for clean drinking water. We do believe, our estimates are that they would, it's a very reasonable amount because they're just drinking water. They could still use their wells for irrigation purposes. And if you take out watering lawns and other things like that, or washing cars or other things that you use water for that doesn't need to be culinary water, it makes this very affordable for anybody. In fact, I would love to have this water bill personally, but I say that too because even with that, we recognize there might be a transition. The governor's office is willing to try to work out something for some transition, working with Capco, and part of that too is Capco is perhaps willing to open services in Boardman, even if it's like a couple of days a week, some sort of satellite office. Again, these are just things we're proposing. We're still in the works on, but we think that would also be a benefit because though Capco and its program would be, or this program would be specific to West Glen, simply having Capco available to the residents of Boardman. And if you're not familiar with Capco, they provide energy assistance and other form. It's a resource for people who are struggling economically, short-term or long-term, and they provide a lot of benefits to them. They have county or an office in Pendleton and an office in Hermiston. And so you'll notice that they don't have one in Morrow County, even though by contract they serve Morrow County. We are trying to negotiate and leverage this as an opportunity to say, hey, you need to open up something in Boardman to provide this. That's kind of our negotiation with, again, that has nothing to do with Boardman, but it's another piece to this layer that we are trying to serve everybody by providing this additional resource. And like I said, this last option is the most holistic approach of using the public funds. It is the balance between responsibility, between efficiency and sustainability that benefits, truly, I would argue, benefits Boardman the most in terms of its redundancies and the things that we can build for the city of Boardman, and also benefiting your neighbors in West Glen and getting them that clean water in our quickest way, and most efficient and honestly most economical way possible. And yeah, so those are the three options for you to weigh. And in the end, it's a decision that you, as a city, get to make. In the end, it is the city of Boardman's water, the municipal water that we need for this to happen. One thing I'll point out that in the studies done, the Luguama and the thousands of people affected by the nitrate, the nitrate contamination in the unincorporated areas of North Morrow County, right? The thousands of people, West Glen is what I like to call the proverbial low-hanging fruit. The studies say that use of municipal sources are the most sustainable. In fact, I think, let me just read this because they said it much better than me. The city of Borden's existing infrastructure, regulatory compliance framework, and treatment capabilities make it the most reliable and cost-effective provider. Though the initial investment is substantial, meaning the 3.85 million that we would be investing, it is offset by reduced long-term risk, improved water quality, and alignment with public health objectives. In many ways, it's the only viable option. Anything else would require a lot more money and a lot more time. And we all know that those costs just become exponential. We are working on some of those other solutions because we know that there's, literally thousands of others who do not have a close municipal source. We have a project with Irrigan to potentially, to build up their existing system to deliver water to not nearly as many residents, but at least some, right? But what do we do about people who live miles and miles away from municipal sources, or miles and miles away from their closest neighbors and are still affected? Those are other things we are still trying to work out. West Glen gives us an opportunity for all of us to deliver water to a lot of people quickly. And going back to the 90s when we first discovered this was happening, the first group to get it. And that's what I am hopeful for, cautiously optimistic for, and seeking your help in bringing to pass. And so that's my presentation. I'm gonna flip my last slide there. So this is your time for questions, discussion.
Yeah, I'll say something.
Yeah.
I personally think there's a part in this that you're missing when you were talking about all the things. This has been going on. You've been having these meetings for over a year. And I would say when this first started, I was like, they're going to make the city provide the water. And this is the first time that actually anybody's really started to talk to see what we feel. Now, a long time ago, we talked about and said, yeah, we'd be willing. But state legislatures are telling me that, hey, when are you going to start giving water? I'm like, we haven't even decided on giving water. It's like we are almost the bad guy here. And that's the perception. The other part is, not a single person has talked to the city about, or citizen out there, what they want. And I'm really concerned about the government control. And I'm not a big guy on government control. I'm about water, but not one person has told me what they want. Now, I have to answer to the constituents of Boardman. And nobody told me what they want either, but that's probably why they elected me. But at the same time, I don't know what West Glen wants. They want clean water. Nobody's told me they want it from Boardman. So I've always been a firm response person on, we can sell the water, county can deal with it. Is that the right option? I don't know. But I finally heard the answer, comment that you're not expecting an answer today. That's good because it took us 5 months to figure out what we want to charge for water. So I wouldn't expect an answer real quick. I think that would be irresponsible for us. And so that's the only concern I have. I mean, they deserve water, but I'm not going to do something if they don't want it. Well, I mean, sure, that would be great for us to build a system, but if they're not going to want to buy it and that's not what they want, Okay. Why build it? I mean, is it the right thing to do? Maybe. But if they don't want it, why should it be my problem? And when I say my problem, the city of Boardman's problem.
Yeah. Can
Yes.
Okay. So, we have been, again, I wasn't here 5 months ago, or, a year and a half ago or 2 years ago, and all of this maybe was starting and it was getting obviously a lot of attention nationally, statewide, and where honestly, a lot of these resources have come from because of that attention. So I personally can't speak to that other than the research I've done. And I apologize on behalf of the consortium for not coming to the city of Boardman. I know part of it is we want to make the best informed decision. And so part of it was waiting on studies to be done that directed where and what, right? Because in this study, if you read the study, you would see that there is an option to create a small water district. But that's a lot more expensive and maintaining a lot of other things. There is options around filtration systems, but they found that those actually are not reliable and ultimately not safe. And then there's a lot of issues around who maintains those because they become individual to every person. So, and hence more expensive and more cumbersome, more problematic. So within that study, we wanted to make sure that we knew what it was that we were even asking for. And when the study said municipal sources become that, that's where Boardman becomes part of that conversation.
I want to let Jared off the hook for this a little bit because
Yeah.
he's only been here for a couple months. You're right. I mean, you see these groups here and they have concerns. If we could, we'd fix their wells. We don't have a proven way to do that. And the Clean Water Consortium's goal is to get, water to the people who are impacted by the nitrate while we figure out the greater issues with the aquifer. It's a long-term process in that. One of the options I had was to go door to door to have the 3 public meetings with that many of these people appeared to. And there's a mix of feelings. Some of them are like, I don't want to connect at all. I want you to fix my well. We had many others as we went door to door through there, like, this makes sense. That's great. Let me know. We'll sign up. Even at our final meeting, one of the things we wanted to do kind of a straw poll to say, what do you want to do? And one of the things they said, well, you don't have all the information yet. And that was partly because, we didn't have the water rates from Boardman and we didn't have the full engineering studies. And so we couldn't provide those final in detail information that they're like, to make a final decision, we want to do that. And so it's a mixed bag of nuts. We'll tell you that. I mean, some people just want to have it fixed and drink their water. We want to get water coming out of their tap that's good. And we're not going to force it on them, but we're going to make it available and we'd like to make it available. And the interesting thing is we've gotten, funding and resources to bring that about potentially. I'd like to just say the county has no requirement to provide clean drinking water to people in unincorporated areas. There's no requirement by the county. There's no requirement for the city to provide clean drinking water outside of your city limits. Now, ORS 225.020 allows you to, if you'd like to. We're hoping that to solve this issue, that we can talk with city councils like yourself and possibly Irrigan as we go through there to help some of this low-hanging fruit, establish things, provide it so there is no financial impact to install and connect, and we can try to help facilitate those things. To get to those final answers to give these impacted community members about what the true thing is, we've got to do some more engineering, which requires us to work with you to figure out one of these 3 options so we can really come to them and say, this is the bottom line. And so we've got, as we work with you over the next little bit and come to a determination of, is it just that spigot that you're got a big valve on that we do? Or if we're doing some kind of shared services where we manage, or if it comes to mind saying, hey, yeah, we'd like to have that much more asset come onto our books for free. There's a lot of pros and cons of each of those options. But we've got to get to that next step so I can satisfy these people who are dressed in red tonight to say, here is the bottom line. Here's our option. We've done the engineering with the city's engineer. This is exactly what the impact's going to be to you. Do you want to come in? And we've just got to take those steps. So even now, it's not a full-fledged commitment, and we want to be able to let you think about it, figure it out. But we're at the point where we can't be spinning our tires nonstop on all the options that are out there. We really need to start coming and saying, here's where we're going to be, and here's what we're going to do. We'd hope that we could work with you over the next short while. I don't want to go as long as the water rate study, but we'll do whatever is necessary, because these things take time and they need to take consideration. So sorry to barge in on you, but having been involved in those community meetings, I just wanted to, and going door to door, I just wanted to kind of share some of the things that we had. Now, as far as your residents, as long as we make it so there's no impact on them, I hope they don't mind. I hope they see it as a win for their neighbors. Some won't. I know they won't. But hopefully we can do this as a service and for our larger community, understanding the impact that it's having on people. So, yeah.
Thank you, Matt.
Okay.
And he just echoes what I was gonna also mention, that I want to go into each of these homes and ask them and tell them, this is the plan and this is what we want to do. And we can't until we have those next pieces in place. We know that there's still a lot of details to work out as well. What those contracts, what those agreements will look like, even the IGA with Boardman for engineering has not been done yet. I have authorization to do that, but all of this is contingent kind of on which direction you want to go. And so that's why we're coming to you now with as much information as we have. We can't move forward now without Boardman. So
I have some questions for you.
Yeah.
You said something in passing about the bond, if we would need to pass a bond. So I'm really curious. Okay, you shook your head already. So what did you think? What were you thinking about?
So if you go back to extension of the existing city system option number 1, it just could impact, because if you took that option, you would own additional infrastructure in West Glen, and that would be part of your system completely. And so it could potentially, when you go out for bonds, they assess all of your assets and your liabilities and your tax, or in this case, your fee base, rate payers in that particular area, right? So it could have an impact on that. We don't know what that would be, because that's a future thing, but we're not asking for a bond in any way, shape, or form related to this. We're just saying that it could have bond implications in the future, if that's the decision you choose to use.
I don't know. I don't understand how people could possibly not live in the city limits and vote on if I wanted to pass a bond issue. So, and before we get in the weeds and we don't just agree on this, I have my next question.
Okay. Yeah, no, we're not suggesting West Glen becomes there. To do that, they'd have to be annexed. We're not saying they're voting for anything. We're just saying
And
that
you're
this.
not suggesting that I pass a bond to
No,
provide,
absolutely not. No.
and we need to be clear on that.
Yes, 100%. I just wanted to be transparent in that this option could have potential positive or negative effects on that, because this $3.85 million investment of infrastructure becomes a city asset if that's the decision that is made. Does that make sense?
Not quite.
Okay.
Okay, so then you say on option 3, that you would put pipes into West Glen. And I I didn't quite understand about the red lines that you had coming down like Coonsey and I don't know, Paul Smith or something. I couldn't see that. Yeah. So because I didn't quite understand if you meant that you would still furnish those red lines or not in number 3.
Yeah, go ahead.
And I'm away from the microphone, so my apologies. So part of the Myers study and recommendations from, as we chatted with your engineer in that, was to loop the system. And so the Myers one was to hook into the connections that feed Tuscany,
Yes.
bring it down Main Street, go all the way through Coonsey, and then we would come through here. And at the time, we were considering, since there's development coming through here, possibly making a connection through that area to make the loop. Now you've got some additional developments that have happened that there might be other connections or even a connection on Paul Smith. So our initial estimate was taking it from Main Street down along this line, doing a loop through West Glen in order to make sure that you've got adequate flow and a loop system in there to make sure there's redundancy. Now, our plans were 10-inch pipes. It'd probably be good to go up to 12-inch pipes to make it, an essential part of your system. And so that might be something that we'd need to talk to before we finalize plans. So that was our plan, because we didn't want to just hook in on one spot. So if water goes out on the other side of the road, suddenly our whole community's without water. So that was an effort to make that loop.
Okay, so in number 3, you still propose to do the red lines.
Yeah, we'd have to do that somehow. I mean, because if we just made a single connection through one of the developments, that would put, and Mike, okay, he'll answer your question.
Okay. All right.
Anybody else have questions?
Curious about the legacy fund.
Matt would probably speak more to this, but the idea is the funds we put aside in trust for any future maintenance need. And depending on what happens in the future, if the city were to take it over, then that fund goes with them. If they create their own water district in the future, then those funds would be a legacy for the West Glen infrastructure.
That'd be like an endowment fund.
Yeah.
That's how I understood it to be.
Yep, they would sit there and accumulate interest to take care of any potential future needs. Hence the idea of it being an insurance policy for the city against any future maintenance need.
Now, a fund like that, though, wouldn't it need to have continued money being put into it so that it could self-sustain? I mean, that's the purpose of an endowment fund.
This would just set it aside for a future. Go ahead, Matt.
Those are some details we'd have to work out. I mean, it all depends on which option. I mean, if you're in charge of it, then we give you something, allow you to do that. If the county's in charge of it, those are some really in the weed details we'd love to be able to work out, but we don't have those fleshed out because it depends on which option we go with.
Okay.
I don't really want to get down in the weeds about this, Matt, but I will say that there's a lot more to providing clean drinking water to every resident than just putting pipe in the ground. There are pumps, there's electricity, there's a whole system that has to be run, monitored, maintained, paying overtime on the weekends for people to respond when they're not supposed to be at work. All of those things that our taxes currently pay for and go into those funds. We just did our budget last night, and all those monies are part of how we provide that, not just our rates that we get, because the rate doesn't actually cover that whole cost right now. I recently heard the city manager in Hermiston state that they have about 86 miles of water line and that they have a water rate that's about 5 or 6 times the city of Boardman's water rate without turning on their water. It's very expensive. They take 20% of their dollars and they commit it to their capital improvement or their reserve funds to pay for replacing of pipe. And that they did some figuring, and on those dollars alone, without tax dollars and those things, they have a replacement or rework of pipe about once every 600 years. So your endowment fund or your legacy fund needs to be pretty substantial, and it needs to be growing, because that isn't going to pay for much if it has to be replaced.
I'm going to jump up on the microphone. I'm not an expert on water systems
Me either.
as Mike would be. However, it's really neat to say that I've got experience in all three options plus a couple others. I've managed cities where we've provided water outside. I've managed a city where we contracted with the county to provide water to a county-owned system. And I was with a city that bought water from another city. And then we took care of it all. And so it's really kind of interesting, and each of those are different ways. One of the reasons why you're talking about water rates is to try to get it so your taxpayers aren't, your property tax general funds aren't going that way. Fully support that. It might be a pipe dream sometimes, but you want your water and sewer systems to pretty much be enterprise funds if possible, where they aren't taken from your general fund. That's a hard thing. And Boardman, you've done some financial planning in that and kept those rates low. It's great. I live in Hermiston. I've got a high water rate. It's not unbearable, but it's high. My wife likes her plants too much and her lawn too much, and I cringe sometimes when she runs them out and waters them so much. But as we look at it, I mean, that's one of the things we want to work with you to understand and make sure. And depending on which option, that will determine some of the details and how much, if we have a legacy fund and how much we're putting aside as the county to for repairs and that, or if we're setting things up. So as you manage it, how much we have to pay extra for repairs, or if you're just into it, we want to make sure that the rate's at a good place, that we don't expose West Glen residents to a future change that's catastrophic, or to the city of Boardman. And so there's a bunch of ways to skin the cat, for lack of a better word, on this. But most of them are workable. You got to go in there with your eyes open, and we got to make sure that, here's what we're going to do. And I've already ran some numbers on some of the options. I'm not a good forecaster on finances for those things, and I haven't escalated it yet. But there's definitely options we can do to take care of it. We aren't creating the will here. In fact, there's several municipalities that have contracts or have worked with counties here in Oregon, and I'd love to get some of those examples of you. I know here on the east side, there's kind of a thing like, we're not going to provide water unless they annex, and that's not the case in a lot of places on the west side of the state, where the counties have said, hey, we've got arsenic in this area. We need to get clean water, and the city's the best place to pull it from. Nitrates are terrible. Arsenic, really terrible. And so I'd love to bring some of those options to you at future discussions, just to say, here's examples in the state of Oregon where they've worked things out. And, I found out that in the state of Oregon, around Bend, there's 2 private water companies. I don't want to go that direction. But it's interesting to see how many different options there are when you talk about water delivery. And I'm no expert, but I've had to deal with a couple of them, and would be happy to walk through that process with the city of Boardman to make sure it's the right fit for you, as well as for the residents of the West Glen and the county as we go through it. This is definitely just a short thing, doesn't have all the answers, but we'd love to work with you on that. It doesn't really answer it, but hopefully it's a commitment.
So are you proposing another meeting and bringing more information, or what were you just saying there?
Well, yes. What I mean by that is we want you to have time to deliberate and to ask more questions if you need it. Additional information, like Matt was saying, around how these systems would be. If there's, maybe you as a group decide where you're leaning, and then we continue the conversations and then start to work out some of the weeds, the details, if you will. So yes, I mean, in the end, it's your decision, and we want to work with you. And so it's up to you if you want to have another meeting and when you want to have that. We just would like to work with you to make it happen. Does that answer your question, Karen?
Well, not exactly, because he's saying that he has lots of other information on how other towns have done these things.
Well, he could gather that information. We know that there's districts in
That's
Oregon.
not my point.
Yeah.
When's he going to share it? That's what I want to know. He can have it for now till the end of time. But if he doesn't share it with us, so we know, because like you say, we're not experts in water delivery. So if you brought us something that says, well, this town figured out how to, have a private well and charge them so much and whatever. I think we need that. I don't know, maybe I'm the only one, but it seems like we could use that information if you're asking us to make a decision.
And there are. I mean, yes, yep. We'll get together and we'll set up another meeting.
Can I just ask a question? So that's what I was going to talk about is, so you said 7 other cities or towns that you know of? Is that what you said roughly?
There's
In
several,
Oregon.
several. Yeah.
Okay, so can we get a list of which towns there are?
Yes. I can work
Perfect.
on that and get that to Brandon for
Because
distribution.
for me to make an educated decision, I want to go to sources and gather all the information for my own purpose too. I mean, I'm glad that you've came and you're going to speak or whatever, but I feel like there's still a lot of information that we could still gather, and just so that we're making the correct decision.
And that's I mean, I've come to you 2 or 3 times before, very generalities. It's more or less now the time we've got these reports, you've got a water rate. We need to start talking very much details. And so we realize this is a work session, no determination to be made in here, but we'd like to get, start funneling things down, working with your city manager, your engineer, developing these items and really bringing it down to you so you can make a good decision. So that's our goal. And we'd love to do that over the next few months. So, because there are plans to do a water improvement projects of your own, starting in 2007. We'd love to pair that up as well. 27, yes, not 2007. I'm feeling my age. So, so we just want to be cognizant of those, the things that Boardman's going to do. So we aren't, digging up a road twice on certain things, or suddenly saying, yeah, we need that 12-inch pipe instead of that 10-inch pipe. That's terrible. So.
Okay, who's next?
Okay, so Mike's going to share some information. And again, Mike will reiterate. So the Meyer study was done, and he'll explain, long ago. And obviously Mike is constantly working on this. We're doing a water rate analysis, a water something study.
Water system master plan.
Thank you. And that is like new information. So some of it's it's going to contradict a little of that, what they're stating. That's why we didn't get a chance to talk with them prior, because it really is right now doing the information. So that's, again, initial meeting. He's going to share some basic facts. We will come together again, like what you said. And there are several cities. There's a lot of cities that do a lot of different things, and we can bring that information. Go ahead, Mike.
So I'd prepared a presentation, and I'm probably not going to present it because for a couple reasons. One, I received the Meyer report last week, the final. And so I had about a week to review it, and that's fine. It was enough time. But on a high level, I just want to talk about the Meyer report and what it is. It's a feasibility study. So it's looking at like a 10,000-foot view of concepts. And it doesn't really dig into the weeds on the design part. And so I took the Meyer report, and with the tools that I have at my disposal, really analyzed it on the next level with a refined design outlook. And so basically what I come to determine is, it needs additional design work that is necessary to even present it to the city because of and so there's that piece. And then the other piece is that the city is doing a water system master plan. So within the water system master plan, it's a 20-year planning document that looks at distribution system expansions and water supply requirements, water storage requirements. It's a holistic view of the water system. And so when we talk about expanding West Glen, that's a pretty large expansion to a distribution system. And so the Meyer report, it does a good job at looking at a really bird's eye level of concepts. It doesn't really dig into it. So, and that nor was that the scope of the Meyer report. They had a limited amount of funds to do what they did, and they performed their job. So I don't want to sit here with the knowledge that I have and just punch holes in the report because yeah, that's not the right thing to do. So I don't want to discredit the Meyer report in any way, but there's additional coordination that needs to be had between the consortium and the city. And obviously there's a lot more discussion to be had on what this looks like or the options that's pursued. But regardless of the option, on any three of those options, it's going to impact the city system. And when you go and design a distribution system, you're not designing to accommodate something for 5 or 10 or 20 years. Like you look at the water lines that we're replacing now, they were installed in the 60s. So those have been in the ground for close to 70 years. So you want to design a water line to, especially when you're expanding the distribution system, to accommodate for future growth. And being that this is such a large expansion to the distribution system, there's more design engineering that goes into it. So one of the tools that the city has at their disposal is a water model. And it's noted in the Meyer report that the concepts that they developed were without a water model. And so what we have the ability to do is input the conceptual design into the water model and see what the results are. And so with coordination with the consortium, we can model the system and make sure that fire demands are being met, that pressures are being met, and that you can supply and meet all the regulatory requirements for expansion of a distribution system. So with that being said, there is looping of the system. I did a model of it. It will be a 12-inch line that's looped. So there's some different considerations to be had as far as the cost of the project. And so with that, I open it up for questions.
And Mike, just and that a 12-inch compared to an 8-inch is quite a bit of money.
It's, well,
10-inch to 12-inch. And the one thing that like he said, there was not a water model. And when he did do the water model with the proposed, it wouldn't serve the fire hydrants.
So we input the Meyer concept distribution system around West Glen. And within the Meyer report, it just showed a connection at River Ridge. And we didn't have the red line included in the water model. But if we were just say conceptually, just connect to River Ridge with a 10-inch pipe, run it across the road. If I could provide an analogy, it would be like you put one straw in a soda pop and then make a bunch of forks on it, and you'd have a bunch of people drinking out of one straw. there's not going to be a lot of soda getting in your mouth. So that's maybe a terrible analogy, but what it means is you'd be connecting. So another thing is West Glen is on the very far end of the distribution system. It's higher in elevation. So as you go up in elevation, pressures drop in the distribution system. And so that has to be taken into account. But by all means, the system needs to be looped to provide adequate fire flows. And for a residential system, that's 1500 GPM out of a fire hydrant at a minimum. Minimum pressure standards, that's 40 PSI, 40 to 50 is the minimum that we shoot for. So making sure all that stuff is met, and that can be all verified in the water model. So with coordination with the consortium, we can get to a conceptual, it wouldn't even be conceptual. We could get a preliminary design on the distribution system that would meet the regulatory requirements and present that with updated cost estimates, because with changes to the pipes in the ground, there's going to be additional costs. So that all needs to be worked out. So
I appreciate your honesty. And the point being that you're saying that we have to think about like not 20 years down the road, but 40 and 60, because I would assume some of these families, maybe their kids take over their property or their grandkids or whatever. We don't want to be 20 years down the road still trying to fix a problem,
yeah, like
take care of it and just be done with it.
Exactly. The pipes that go down Main Street and down Coonsey, those aren't just going to be serving West Glen in the future. You have a lot of undeveloped parcels out there that are zoned residential. And so it's not only considering serving West Glen, it's for to be a benefit to the entire city. Those main lines going in the ground are going to serve multiple developments in the future. And so looking 50, 60 years down the road of what this city's going to look like, more than likely all those undeveloped parcels out there will be developed. And so we want to put water lines in the ground that's going to serve the better of the city. So the last thing you want to do is go upsize a water line 20 years down the road.
And thankfully, we have been working on this. Karen did an outstanding job with the preparation. And when we're moving our water right over to our property off of Coonsey, it's going to help with the pressure and I mean, it's all in place. It does just take time. And I was talking to someone and it's like, we're going to fix the problem. Well, like we don't want to do a Band-Aid. We don't want to do anything. We're going to fix it. So if we're going to be involved, we're going to do it right. And it will take time, and it definitely will take money. So
the document that's really going to support this effort is the water system master plan. Because I mean, I just presented it to you guys last week, which I'm sure you remember everything I said. And that within that document has proposed 12-inch looped lines down Main Street, down Coonsey, down Paul Smith, connecting to Oregon or on Failer. Back in 2018, we installed a 24-inch line in Failer, and that's the line you want to connect to. In 2018, we put an 18-inch line in Main Street, and that's the line you want to connect to. So those are your main feeders to pull off of to serve all these undeveloped parcels and West Glen.
Since I have short time memory, is our water master plan completed, or are we just working on it?
It's should be complete by the July council meeting, like final.
Okay, so it's
final
like
plan.
is that the 10-year, is it every 10 years or 20
You update a
years?
master plan every 10 years, but the plan itself is for a 20-year planning period.
Okay.
But with the model, the water model that we have at our disposal, we're modeling to serve all those undeveloped parcels. So we're implying that demand in the water model. So we're making sure everybody's water pressure.
and that's what our workshop is in June, correct?
That's the sewer
Oh,
wastewater facilities plan and collection system study.
Yeah, we'll do another workshop.
Thanks.
It's him.
Anything else? Any other questions?
Well, I'm not sure he answered the question I asked the other fellow about if they just, if the consortium just puts pipes in West Glen, what happened to the red pipes that got the water to West Glen? Are they still proposing to pay for those?
I believe so.
Okay,
I believe I mean, I don't want to speak for anybody, but I believe the red pipe goes in the ground regardless.
matter.
And I would assume that that would be owned by the city of Boardman. It would be in that option 3, I'm speculating here, but the pipes in West Glen would be under county jurisdiction. But the red pipe would be city of Boardman.
Okay, so you guys, okay.
It's big picture still, right? Until we get the actual engineering to know.
Yeah.
all the Details.
100%.
And determine where pipes actually land and where what is and what is what.
And that might actually be the first decision we make, that we have you make, is that IGA to allow us to pay Anderson Perry to do this additional engineering for West Glen per your city standards. So then we know exactly what it is. So it has the water model, it has your water plan built into it. And I mean, like it said, Myers was a 10 to 15% preliminary feasibility study.
Okay,
We got a lot of engineering still to do.
okay, thank you.
Anything else? Got anything?
Nope, but we'll come
Thanks, Mike.
back and we'll get more information. I know the original concept on the IGA was to get a little more like explicit of the IGA and not just have it be for engineering. I know that's kind of what was discussed at one point, but it might be the simplest thing is just to do a straight IGA for Mike to do that. We can present that to the council in June. That'll be a simple just agreement. I don't even know if it has to go to you guys, but
And get started somewhere.
yeah. Yep. Cool. Yeah, that's easy enough. Thank you.
I think for me, I need to know from Jared, Matt, the county, in your plans, I need to know what the figures are actually going to be. So I need to know what's going to go in the legacy and why that number was chosen. I need to know what it's going to mean if the city is going to own the pipes. I want to know what all that's going to mean, not just this is just like what we saw tonight isn't enough for me to make an educated decision.
Oh,
I need more
correct. And yep,
details.
just an initial meeting tonight for sure. And that's what the engineering study would help with is that information because it would give more detailed, it would show the cost of a, 12-inch going all the way and making that loop road that more than likely the consortium would be more than happy to pay for that redundancy. I'm sure that that's something they'd love to do for the city.
And that's one reason. I mean, if nothing else, if we could come to your next city council meeting with that IGA, it's got to be designed no matter what.
Yeah.
And if we have Anderson Perry do it, that's your system hooking into the West Glen system, no matter how its final ownership and dedication is going to be. And so that would be probably the first and quickest asks that we would bring to the council.
Okay.
Maybe even
Yeah, that's it.
So if I send you an email asking what I would like,
yes, I brought a couple business cards.
because I can't think of all of it right now, but I have a list of things that I would like to send you, and that would be the information I would like to know, so I could gather more information myself. Thank you.
And are you sharing that list with the rest of us?
I would totally
No.
share it with everybody.
It's not with you. You have to ask.
I want to know.
Yes.
Kiefer,
Yes.
you pointed out that, This was the first time we're officially coming to you. We didn't have all the information, but we know we needed to start the conversations with you. And so we appreciate that we're able to do this, right? So we can start building that and find out what more do you need and want so we can continue with the relationship. So
Yeah, we don't have to hash the past.
yeah.
Yeah, we don't have to hash the past. So.
And that's all I have, and I'm sure you want to maybe say something about the gratitude of the respectful nature of everyone. I love having everyone come and fill the seats and showing respect.
Well, you
for the-
took it from me, so.
I was just,
It's like, I don't have to say it now, but yes, thank you for everybody for coming. I appreciate the concern and showing up. This meeting is adjourned.